So I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Air Affordable Housing Trust meeting for Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. Um, First order of business will be to approve the agenda. Were there any changes or edits?
Just that we do not have the minutes from June, so we will not be approving those at this meeting.
Okay. Any other changes? If not, then I can take a motion.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bob, sorry, Bob, Cindy,
Aye.
and Ken?
Aye.
All right, and the chair says aye. Agenda is approved with that one amendment. Um, all right, and then the next item will be the membership update. Katie, if you want to take that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So our new planning board rep, big thanks to Jonathan for his service on this committee this past year. Now we have Pete Cush, who is traveling with family this week, but excited to get up to speed. I understand he has all sorts of super relevant experience, so I'm excited to have him on the board. And then James rolled off our Affordable Housing Committee, and so taking his spot here as the HC rep for the trust is Ken. Does everyone in the room know Ken already, or should we take a minute?
Nope. We know
Yep.
Ken.
Everyone knows Ken. Of course we all do. All right. Well, we're very lucky to have Ken on board.
Yes, we are.
Yay, Ken.
Time will tell.
I think we are. All right. Okay, well, welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
And then the other thing around membership, maybe just while we're on the topic, Sean, is I think we're probably due maybe at the next meeting to re-elect officers. I think it's been a minute, so let's just make a note to consider that the next time around. And then any of you all who are interested in serving in that position. I know Sean has his hands full with the select board, so I'm sure he wouldn't be sad to turn over the chair role, but we do appreciate him doing it at this point. So thank you, Sean.
Yeah. All right. Then we'll move on to the next topic will be the Affordable Housing Forum scheduled for September 29th.
Oh, she even has the draft poster. Woohoo!
All right.
Thank you, Katie.
Mhm.
Sean, thank you very much. And to members of the trust, thank you very much for allowing me to speak about this housing forum. Pretty much what you see on the slide is what we've been discussing. It is going to happen September 29th, which is Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. There will be pizza. I definitely always start with that to make sure that people know that if you come, you will be fed. And on top of it, I think I'll even make a few different types of cookies so that we can have that there. But this is the third housing forum that we've done. First one was in 2019. After that, it was 2023. We received real good feedback from our neighbors. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we like to do with this housing forum, because as you can tell from the poster, we're going to be discussing not only, like say, the demographics of the town, but some of the events that occur when we have some meetings. People question inclusionary housing. They question the open space and residential development. How can they work on getting an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit? Things like that. So we're going to have the experts of the town, Danny Ruiz, our town planner, Mike Wallace, our building inspector, and we're going to have a member from DPW to talk about the infrastructure, because I know a lot of people said, if we have so much growth, how are we going to handle the water? How are we going to handle the sewer? I have a meeting with the Air Shirley Regional School District Board, so that I can talk with them to give them the update as well, and get some of their feedback with regards to if there's an influx of students and how they will be able to handle that. So we'll be there to answer some questions and also again get feedback. There's going to be like a little bit, just like we've always done, game in the beginning. Somehow or another, we want people to interact. As you can tell, one of the items on here is like myth busting. I think it would be great if we could have something like from the television show Mythbusters, so we could have questions and seeing what the answers are. Also, maybe a little bit of trivia about air. I know that the chamber has got the questions at some businesses that if you get that little form and get the stamp at that business, you also have to answer a question about air. And I've learned a little bit more about the town. So I think, having something like that would be good. One of the other things too that we're going to have is sort of a talk about the successes with regards to some of the changes that have occurred within the zoning or the state with their new housing guidelines. They've got new mass general laws for housing to see on how that's going to benefit us, as well as we'll have resources from Mass Housing Partnership, MHP, and CHAPA, and forgive me, I don't know what that stands for, but they, I do, but not off the top of my head. But they will have, like I said, we'll get resources from them because they do have some great programs, especially for first-time home owners, something like a one mortgage. So we want people to know that there are resources out there, as well as listen to some of the feedback of what people may think, what they are concerned about, and have the individuals there who can also answer their questions and listen to some of that feedback. Again, September 29th, 6 o'clock at night at the Great Hall, where APAC will be there filming as well. And with that, I'm just going to say, I'd love to hear some feedback from you all. I know many of you have gone to the other two events, so I think you've seen that some of it is really good successes. But what do you guys think?
It sounds great, Janet. I attended the last one, and I just thought it was well attended, lots of great conversation. I thought it was really nice. The whole thing about choosing what your housing should look like, what we'd like that was kind of fun. People got to put their 2 cents in, and so this looks like a great lineup. Like I think around ADUs in particular, it's clarify some of what exactly is allowable and how would be
Correct.
used.
Yeah. All right, that's good to hear. I know that we some of the other boards that I have mentioned, that I've gone to talk to, they do want to emphasize what is considered small a, what is considered large A. And maybe if I'll be working with Katie on this to see whether or not we can get an idea of, I think we do know the number of large A's that are in air. But I don't think we really have a good handle on the amount of small A's. We can get a guesstimate. And Ron might be able to help with some of that. But a lot of people don't realize how many small A's we do have in the community. And that's thanks to a lot of people who, I'm going to say the landlords who don't raise rents. So I think that's really good. So thank you, Bob. It's nice to hear that, again, it was a lot of fun. I do have to admit that. And just getting, the panel talking and everything, the panel of experts talking, you get to hear of what's going on. So let's see. Yep. Yeah, that's what I've got down here. Anything else from, I know, Sean, you guys gave good feedback from the select board, and Ken, there was good feedback from the planning board of looking at some of the new duplexes, multifamilies that can be built in different category, whatever it's called. I'll get the words right.
I think from the angle of zoning, the big changes, Janet, were what's allowed as, the term they use is as of right. In other words, it's allowed. You don't have to get a special permit or any kind of variance. So that's what changed on the multifamily, the two-family. Multifamily still has some requirements for permits and whatnot, but
Correct, but they're allowed in different zones now.
right. But
Yeah.
the basic drive by the state, and I think the town is doing the same thing, is to take away impediments to housing. That's what we've all been studying and learning about and whatnot. Try to make it easier for people to get something done.
True.
Not necessarily on the big project side. That's got a lot of regulation, but people who have lots and accommodate extra housing and whatnot.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, again, talking about some of the successes, how many acres really did get saved with the open space and residential development, how many affordable units have been created because of the inclusionary housing. And I know later on, Katie, you'll be talking about, what some of the other items that you've been talking to Danny about. I think that's on the agenda. Yeah. So, but I'll say it this way. Again, if you think of anything that you think may be really, really good to present or have on September 29th for this housing forum, just reach out to Katie, reach out to me, or head down to town hall and
I love visitors.
Pardon?
I love visitors.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I would say, just to also bring this group along on sort of the framing that the committee has been using, but coming off of the Housing Institute and before that, but I think the narrative that housing is sort of the building block for everything else. And so if you're talking about housing, you're talking about health, and you're talking about, help me out. It plays into all the other aspects of your life, right? And so
Correct.
I think, to me, this is sort of, in my head, this forum is like the beginning of visioning for what a healthy community and a healthy future looks like for Ayer, as sort of a kickoff to the fact that we're jumping into master planning soon. We'll have our housing production plan coming up soon. So it's like, how do we get people to start or to continue to reinforce the importance of housing and housing security and the type of community that we hope and want to be. So trying to
Correct.
make sure it starts to capture some visioning as well.
Mhm.
All right.
All
Very
right.
good. All right. Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome, Sean, and team. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to be around to listen in.
All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Next up will be the learnings from the MHP Housing Institute on the regional trust collaboration.
Fabulous. So a bunch of us had the great opportunity to go to the Massachusetts Housing Partnerships Housing Institute. It was a 2-day great bonding experience for all of us. So we brought along Abby King, who is our intern in the CED office this summer, and then had Dave and Jane and Janet and Ken, all from the trust. And so between the group of us, we went to all the different offerings that the trust had, that the conference had to offer, which was great. And I will just call out, you can see here some of the topics that might be of interest to some of you, and that all the conference materials are publicly available online. So if anything is intriguing to you, feel free to dig around. If anything sparks thoughts and ideas and conversation, by all means, reach out. Like I said, we were at every conference between us or every session, so we'd love to dive into it more with you. I think the piece for this group is we met several local trusts within our region, trust members within our region, and there seems to be a great appetite for some semi-regular coming together. Make sure we know what each other are doing, learn from what each other are doing, um, sort of avoid some duplication of efforts, right? So I met, for example, with Stuart from the Shirley Affordable Housing Trust and their admin, who is she's a senior tax write-off volunteer, is the person that staffs their trust. And so she's working hard on her senior tax write-off. And so I met with them just this morning, and they pretty much cut and paste our rental assistance program for what they're now trying to implement in Shirley, which is great. But then we sort of talked about a lot of the things that I'm going to bring up when we talk about the rental assistance program. And it was like, if we're talking about making sure we're making resources available to the folks on the program, Ayer and Shirley resources are going to be more or less the same. Like we don't both need to be doing that in silos. We can collaborate and do that together. And so on things like that, I would love for us to have a quarterly meeting. I also at the trust met with I think he was on the planning board in Harvard, but was well connected to the trust and would certainly connect us. Our contact with St. Vincent de Paul in Littleton happens to be on the trust in Littleton, and so she was there and we collaborated on the trust, and she would love to have some sort of regional group so we can think about what other communities make sense to be a part of it. And I would be curious who, if anyone here, would be interested in also being a part of it. I certainly hope to be and can certainly bring back any learnings and sharings, but I would welcome trust member or 2 or 3 to join as well.
Yeah, when they have, obviously it's in its early stages, but it's like a working group that would be meeting after hours, during business hours.
I think we're driving it so we can determine what feels like it would work best. I think something that's after hours is more likely to capture folks on these sort of volunteer groups. So
Yeah.
that probably makes a lot of sense.
I would definitely be interested.
Great. All right. Well, I think next steps on it are probably, well, I guess the other question then is what other communities do we think we should intentionally try to involve in this little nugget?
I would think it would make sense to have Groton as well.
Yep.
And I don't know if Devon's has anything similar.
Maybe if only to have someone who knows what's going on from housing and affordable housing in Devon, even if it's not really a trust, it might be an interesting perspective to make sure is in the room if they're interested.
Yeah.
Groton, Devon's.
Anybody else have thoughts?
Hi, this is Colleen. I'm
Hi,
sorry. I'm having
Colleen.
some serious tech issues today.
Oh,
Started earlier in the day, so I'm on my phone. I would also be willing to participate in such a group. I think it's a great idea. Again, assuming it's after hours, doesn't conflict with work time. But I think including Devon's would be really an important, somebody from Devon's and housing on Devon's would be valuable.
And run by mass development, the whole scheme over there, but don't know.
great. Well, I'm imagining we're in the lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer, so nothing's going to get off the ground in the next month, I wouldn't think. But, mid-September to mid-October, maybe we propose a few dates and see who can join. I think.
Sounds good.
Love it. All right.
Then if no other comments or questions, then we'll go ahead and move on to the rental assistance program update.
All right. Also me. I'm going to talk at you a lot tonight. I'm sorry. At some
That's all
point,
right.
we'll figure out how to build these out so that I don't have to do so much of the talking. All right. So we hit July. The CPC funds are in for the year, and we are at 14 families, which is so exciting. So I did a little bit, well, before I jump into my quick back of the envelope, who are we supporting? One implementation question. So in addition to being able to add the families because of the increase in funding, we very excitingly had a recipient roll off of our program because she started receiving a state voucher. So yay, that's the program working. It's very exciting. And it means it opens another spot. And the question for that spot is that spot then awarded for the rest of this program year, or are they awarded for a year and then they're forever on this sort of off cycle? I'm curious what folks' thoughts are on that. I think ideally from an implementation standpoint, it's really nice if everyone is sort of starting and reapplying the same time of the year. The part that's messy about that then is if they're on for 6, 7 months now, does that count as their first year? Like, given that it's a limited program, that's the part that's a little awkward.
I do believe, and anybody can correct me if this is wrong, but I believe we've discussed this before, and it was a rolling basis. So because who knows what's going to happen in the year, obviously this is a success story, which is great. Like you said, this is exactly what the program we're hoping to happen with people. But anything can happen in that time. So in order to best serve the people that the program was created for, it would just they would start, that would be their first month. And so, yes, it would be off cycle, but we'd want them to get the full year before having to renew or provide new information.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. If there was nobody on a waiting list, then it could wait until the end of the year and be advertised. But if there was somebody waiting, they were put on it, as quickly as possible. And I know it's messy, but that's.
No, I 100% want to start giving them money instantly. Absolutely. My question is then, like, when it comes time for them to renew.
A year from that date,
Okay.
not at the beginning of the year. Sorry, I know that's the part that's.
So then how do we rank them? So all the applicants that come in January get ranked, and then the top 14 go into the program for the year. Do we
Right.
have them do the application again in January and it sticks them in the ranking? And if they are in the top 14, then it extends their current?
No, they get the year. And then I don't know. That's a dicey one.
Right. That's where it gets messier.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know how Alicia handled that.
Me neither. What would you recommend, Katie?
My worry would be that so if you're starting the program as a recipient in January, you
Mhm.
know that you have a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And the program is advertised as a full year renewal after a year with a 3-year limit, right? And then if somebody comes on in July, is it really in the spirit of the program that you're only going to get 5 months? And then it's possible that somebody more needy is going to come along. And in January, you're going to fall off of the program because somebody else came. And I just don't think that would be in the true spirit of it.
So I'm not suggesting they'd fall off in January. I'm suggesting I worry about ranking them for the next batch. Like I want them to I want them to be in the mix for a year extension. And maybe they do that paperwork in January and then they know way in advance if they're extending.
That makes sense to me.
Possibility.
So they would do their paperwork in January, but they would still maintain part
Right.
of the
They're
program
granted
until
for a
they
year
fall
now.
off. Okay. Okay.
And
I see.
then
Yep.
the ranking just determines who are the 14 people we're then letting into the program
Yeah.
during the course of that year. And if they're one of them, it's just an additional year extension
Right.
onto their.
etc. Yeah,
I
I
like-
like it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Uh,
As long as they're not at risk of falling off.
After
Uh,
5 months. Yeah. No,
Yeah, and I don't think having to then I don't think it's heavily burdensome to provide the information again.
right. And I can set that expectation now as I'm letting them on. Like,
Mhm.
listen, the paperwork for renewal, even though you're not falling off until next summer, you're going to have to do the paperwork over the course of the winter. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit awkward, but that's fine.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds fair.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question for us to consider? So the
Yeah.
person that joins in July that then reaches 2.5 years when they are reapplying, they would still, I want to make sure at the end they still have that 3 year access. So they would get ranked, but they would know that last 6 months they're only eligible to stay on the program to July.
So we're granting them a year at a time. So right now we'd be saying a year. If come January they're in the top 14, we extend another year. So through summer 2027 or 2028 rather. Right now we're saying through 27. Come January we'd say through 28. And then they could apply one more time again in the winter to potentially extend to 2029.
So through the end of 2029, we wouldn't say to them in that last application, because they started in July, they have to end in July.
No, they
We'd be
end
giving
in
them-
July. They
Right.
end in July.
So we just then now have a perpetual July spot, which we have a couple anyway because we added spots in July, right? So there's going to be some
Well,
awkward.
we may or may not have, because you may not have anybody on the list. So it may,
I mean, that would
yeah,
be
right. Yeah,
we're a
right.
long way
I know.
out from that being the case. So
I know that's very unlikely, but yeah, unfortunately, that means there's then a perpetual July until we get to a point where we decide to like reboot the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
so
I
that's
don't
fine.
think-
I'm
I don't think
totally
it's
fine
fair
for
to-
keeping track of people having different start and stop times. I want to make sure we're on one application timeline. 'Cause
Yeah,
that,
I think
is what it's-
right. So regardless of when your end date would be, every single participant in the program submits their paperwork in January for approval and ranking.
Yep.
And then if they no longer rank within that 14, then their time ends after their year
Exactly.
or
Perfect.
after 2 years or whatever, whenever
right,
they
right.
happen to fall, be above that, outside of that.
Perfect. Thank you. That's the clarity I
I think
needed.
I think that's fair. Anybody else?
I was gonna say that when someone is on the list as this person was, and believe me, this is my first meeting, so
Yeah.
are they aware when they on the list that there's a chance that they could get added during the year, right from the get-go?
Yes,
Something
they're put on a
happens.
waiting list and when they don't make it in the initial application period, they're told they're on a waiting list. I'm not sure if they're told at what position they are on the waiting list or not, but they
No, shouldn't be. I don't
Yeah.
think. But if somebody drops off like that one person did who got, a state program, then we don't want to make people wait. So
I understand, yeah.
that's why we end up with all these odd dates. But-
I just tell you, I was almost thinking that they could get an extra 6 months out of the thing if we just gave them credit. Didn't count this first 6 months. And then if they pass in January, they start fresh right there. And then if you make it, you keep going and you have the 3 years, the potential 3 years, but to try to get away from the odd months. But Katie, you say the odd months aren't a problem. Some people.
yeah, it's just one more thing to explain, but from a sending out the checks perspective, it's just I number which month of
Okay.
their program they're in is the end of their invoice number. So it
it
actually
doesn't
we can set
matter.
up a lovely system that way.
It doesn't matter when you start. It's a year from when you start. And if somebody would drop out later in October, let's say, that person would go from October to October. So you could end up with this could end up being, people coming in and out at different times of the year all year long.
Yep. That's
Okay.
just comes with it.
That's it. And
The only
do
other
that-
thing to be aware of there, though, is So the person who got their voucher and left was sort of booked for $6,000 worth of support. By extending this other person, we're booking someone on the same sort of fiscal year worth of support for additional months. And if they keep qualifying, it doesn't wind up being a redundancy. But if they fall off the program and get an additional 6 months, and then we're starting a full set of 14 fresh, then we're paying for
I get
Yeah,
it.
6 months beyond.
right. What we have.
Right.
I get it. Thank you.
Yeah,
So something to keep an eye on, I guess, as this progresses, and we can take it
we
as it
need,
comes and
yeah,
reevaluate.
we need the money in other words,
Yeah.
it's a, to be able to, yes.
Excellent. All right. So while we're on the program, so we have this lovely summer intern who you saw on the last slide, and she's been helping me go through everyone who's applied in the rental assistance program in the last handful of years. And so I have this great spreadsheet now, and I parsed it out of those who are currently on the program, and have found that there are things I'd like to add to the application so that we can do a better analysis going forward. It's a little bit hard to figure out who we are supporting. Like the only sort of diversity question is whether or not they require translation or what their home language is or something. And I'd like us to be able to know who we're reaching. And so I'm hoping we can add sort of a demographic section, which of course doesn't go anywhere into the ranking, but helps us analyze who we're reaching and who's applying. But so interesting to know, of the 14 currently on the program, 10 folks are single person households, 11 report having a disability, 5 are employed, and of those, 1 is also pursuing a degree. Just 2 of the 14 have children in the house, and none required translation, which is the only way we're really getting at diversity at this point. So Abby's analysis, she's also trying to hopefully pull some census data so that we can sort of say, okay, who are the people living in poverty in Ayer? What do their demographics look like, and are we reaching them? And then I think that will help inform how we're doing additional outreach potentially. And so then my question to you all tonight was, what are our goals with the program? Because I think it'll help us think through over the course of this fall, like, is our ranking system working? What can we be doing to support the folks in the program or on the waiting list to make sure that they are so it's a temporary program, right? So it should be either helping folks get to a point where at the end of the 3 years, they're earning more money and can sustain their rent, or there should be a realistic chance that these folks will be able to access other voucher programs at some point over the course of 3 years. Or I think we're providing a Band-Aid, right? Like, if neither of those two things are true, then we're helping someone stay in an apartment they can't afford for 3 years, and then they have to move anyway. And so I would love for us to think through, how do we get at that a little bit, either help people access these programs, prioritize things differently. Like, if someone's living alone in a 2-bedroom, like, that we're subsidizing now, do we help do a roommate matching? Like, I don't know, but I want these folks to not, at the end of 3 years, be left in the same position they were when they applied initially. So I just would love for us to think through how we're supporting something sustainable.
Is there a se-
Oh,
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Colleen.
Sean. Is there a
Uh,
is there any demographic that you're looking at that's related to age?
So that's a great question. I think it's about half seniors. I think the mean age of the of the primary applicant is somewhere in the 50s. So it's actually a broader spread than I would have thought, looking at the rest of these stats. I'm sorry I didn't pull that there, but yes, we do have the age, and it kind of runs the gamut from the 30s to the 70s, with sort of
That's
meeting
good.
right there in the 50s.
All right, that's good.
I know another thing we had talked about previously in relation to this was so for our seniors that are on this program is the expectation that they apply for senior housing, which takes a couple of years in a lot of cases. And unfortunately, we don't have a social worker now, which when we had a social worker was also part of, it came with the voucher was like the expectation, like you would work with the social worker would help you get on, like apply for raft or other programs. But yes, without that, how do we get these people connected to other services? And I mean, and I get what you're saying, and I agree with you on we don't want to get to the end of 3 years and the people all of a sudden aren't able to afford it. Um, but I think it was intended or is intended to be sort of a band-aid to kind of take a little bit of pressure off of them so that they can apply for or they can look for other things.
Right. So I'm hoping it's a bridge, though, more than a
A bridge
band-aid,
more than
right?
Band-Aid, yes. Yeah, but yes, but some to give them a little bit of help so that the thought of, being homeless in a month is not
Sure.
going to like they don't have to worry about that while they try to figure out what is the next best thing or what do they need to do.
Yeah. I think what I would maybe, and it's going to start to get super complicated, but I almost wonder if, like, year one, we welcome you, like, strictly the need-based ranking we've been doing. I wonder if, like, year two, there's a bit more of a, like, you get bonus points to stay on if you've made sure, like, if we know that you're on these waiting lists, or you're, I don't know, if, like, you're, Cindy, jump in. I'm just, yes, please.
We don't need a social worker as much as we need a caseworker.
Mm,
We've talked about this before.
yeah.
We need somebody who can sit with someone and help them fill out paperwork. I have a volunteer right now who is helping one of our guests to do that, to locate a birth certificate, to fill out the paperwork, because our guest is incapable of doing that. And a lot of people who are in the situation of being in our program, the Air Affordable, the rental assistance program, are probably in the same place. It's stressful. And as the months tick by, it becomes more stressful. And they need someone to help them work through the resource list. We cannot simply hand them a list of phone numbers and say, here, go call these. It just doesn't work that way. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. I think probably all of us realize that we need a caseworker, a paperwork filler outerer. Not to diminish what a caseworker does. But given that that's something that the town might have to hire and it didn't work out, I don't know whether it's something that can be done by volunteers or not. There's a certain amount of personal information that gets exchanged in these types of situations. And I don't know what, what insurance or whatever vetting a person would have to have in order to do that. Yeah, we're working with volunteers. When I say we, I mean Stone Soup Kitchen. We're working with volunteers doing this, and we know it's a risk. And the town can't afford to take that risk. So for our purposes, we need to really think about going forward. How do we transition people off? I know that's what you're saying, and I'm saying this is what we need. I don't know how we get it.
I know that like at senior centers, they have people with the Shine program that help people apply for that. I wonder, I'll try to see what I can find if there's a similar type of case management volunteer program that to Shine, but for something like this. I'll see what I can find.
That would be amazing. It's great if we have somebody who comes to us who's disabled, we can sometimes send them to the senior center, even if they're under that age.
Yeah.
But not by much, But for the people that are like, especially the ones that I'm dealing with, that would be amazing if we could find something like that would be vetted and would be volunteers that could help with that.
Have you guys talked to Katie Petrossi? I mean, Sean, have you talked to Katie about this? Oh, this is just coming up tonight.
Just coming up tonight, yeah. So I'll ask Katie, yeah, for sure.
They do a lot there. You may already know that.
Yeah, we do. They're amazing over there. But again, it's primarily for people that are over 60 and not everybody. I'm assuming not everybody that is in our program, the rental assistance program, is over 60.
Right, yeah.
That quite a few of them are not. So we have to find another, but she might be able to lead us to something.
Correct, right.
To someone. So that's a great suggestion, Ken. Thank you.
What about the Regional Planning Commission, Sean, as well? They have a lot of programs over there.
Yep.
They connect the resources in different places. Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission and whatnot.
All right.
If there isn't something that exists, would this body ever consider funding a stipend for someone to come quarterly and have office hours to do this for our rental assistance program participants and other folks who need housing support in Ayer? Like, you could see that potentially being a use case for trust funds, maybe. I'd have to check on it.
We could possibly, no, go ahead. If we could possibly afford to do that for the people on this program, that would be great. I don't know that it would be something we could afford to extend beyond that. Although personally, I would love that. That would make my life a lot easier. But at least for people on the program, if we could look into how we could do that, that would be great.
I'm picturing something like sorry, Colleen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in and say most of our funds at this point come from CPC.
Right.
And so I suspect there might be some
limitations
to using it to fund a position. I don't know if Janet is still here. And
I'm still
in.
Yeah. I'm still here, and Colleen, I wrote down notes. I'm going to research it to see whether or not the funds can, because I know the funds can be used for consultants, depending.
Okay. Guys, we can get funds from another place.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would certainly be in favor of, if we feel like we can afford it, of having that be part of what our trust funds are used for, because it certainly would align with the trust, as long as it's okay from, where the funds came from.
I'd like to put another twist on it, and I'm glad Sean is, I'm on with Sean now. This is good. I was so disappointed when the social worker left. I'm not sure if the position was ever filled with the correct personnel, but I'll leave that beside the point. But the town can easily afford a person who could be a social worker and provide this core resource, that you, however you want to define it, Katie, by combining the work, the not the scope of work, but the work, definition of the job and whatnot, to include a portion of the work that is social work, a portion of the work that reaches out to answers like this. And there's got to be a person out there, and we can afford it. It's really wrong that we don't have a social worker after approving it for a couple of years and talking about bringing a person in. And then unfortunately it didn't work out, but I think we should be trying again to get that whole thing filled. Social worker plus this person who can take this role as well. Part of the job is what I'm getting at. Then we don't have to worry. There's plenty of money in the budget for that. And then you don't have to think about where you're going to get the sources from. It's a person on the payroll, and it's it. You've got it. My own personal opinion.
Thanks,
I think
Ed.
certainly for the FY28 budget, I would love for the trust to make a recommendation that that position comes back, which I know Robert has expressed when he took it out for this fiscal year. He expressed that the hope was it would come back. It was just so.
Yep. Yeah, the word hope is not a good word.
Sure.
You have to turn it into will come back.
Yes. It did need some reworking. It wasn't, the pay was not competitive enough
Oh,
to get
okay.
a quality candidate.
So it's up with the big boys now, the select board.
Yeah.
Excellent. The other thing not to lose sight of while we're talking about next steps is at some point this fall, we need to look at asset limits for the rental assistance program because it was tabled during the last application
Oh, yeah.
period.
Yep. Okay. All right. Does that cover pretty much everything on the rental assistance? All right. Then we'll move on to the next topic, which is the Emergency Assistance Fund.
Fabulous. So I just snagged this slide basically from the select board meeting, so we don't need to talk to every point, but big thank you to Sean, especially for advocating that the select board allocate UDAG funds this year to beef up the Emergency Assistance Fund. And Robert has expressed a commitment to finding a way to build that in the budget going forward. More than a hope, he is committed to that. So that will be good. What I was curious from this group was recommendations for any sort of revised parameters that I'll be drafting some sort of proposal to the oversight committee as to the use of these funds. And since the advocacy for the additional funds came from this group, I was hoping there might be thoughts as to what extended use might be worth building into the program, because it's been pretty strictly housing and fuel utilities. And so just looking for some wisdom and insight here as to what else makes sense.
I have a question about it. Is it ever used for emergency housing for somebody who has run through, like what the Red Cross will do for them after they're burned out, or somebody who has just lost their housing and who is disabled or whatever?
Yes, but it only gets up to a week in the motel. So
a
yes,
week in the
but that's
motel.
what
Okay,
it does.
that's it though.
It's $500 per case at the moment. So that might be something
okay.
that the group recommends, is extending that. But given that we're looking at 15 plus the IC Credit Union always graciously gifts $2,500 toward it. So it's not an expansive fund for annual. So I think $500 still feels like the right household limit at the moment, even though that can be a drop in the bucket.
It might be, except it just cost us $500 to put somebody up for one weekend.
Oof.
Yeah, and that was at a cheap hotel.
Yeah.
It's because they're all getting into this pricing based on, I can't think of what the term for it is. I think you know what I mean. like the way Uber and Lyft does it.
Oh, dynamic pricing.
Thank you. Yes. Dynamic pricing, yes.
Terrible thing.
And I was floored, and that's not our primary mission. So 500 might be okay, but I'd ask that we might want to revisit that.
I think I agree with you. When the yeah, even for your electric or your heating bills right now, 500 doesn't really go too far. Um, yeah. Is there is there like a outline of all the recommendation or not the requirements that's published, or is it just
So it is a paragraph that
yeah.
says housing and fuel and then lists out the oversight committee. That's the only guidance I have so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we should yeah, so we should look at maybe expanding on that. The guidance, the rules, what we're willing to fund and how much.
Question on this though. I wasn't, maybe I'm completely out of the loop, but I didn't know that we as a trust had anything to do with the emergency assistance fund.
I agree. This is sort of
I
new.
don't know
I
why
thought it
we're
was
talking about this.
right. Alicia did it. That's why, I think.
And that was actually one of
Alicia did
her,
it, but I don't think we did it.
No,
we didn't. And that was actually something that Alicia, before she left, her and I had talked about is that explore to see if it's something that should be under the trust um, or the committee, just because it is related to housing. And if it's not, rent, then things that are helping people to be able to afford their rent, or to stay in or their mortgage or whatever. So, and obviously there wasn't a decision, but just a discussion on like, is it something that the trust should be involved in,
Well,
any more so
my
than
understanding, oh, sorry.
oh, I was going to say
My
any more so than just than just asking for additional funds.
Yeah, my understanding is that, yeah, we're about the money. They're sort of about the programs, other than the rental assistance, obviously. And I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think that we should be making decisions about that. I'm perfectly happy to talk about it and to give input, but I really believe that that's something that the Affordable Housing Committee or some other group should really be talking about, because it's not just housing.
Yeah, so the way it's written is it's this oversight committee, which is, an esteemed group of collaborators from across the town who I appreciate that they give their time to review the memos when we request the fund, because they do sometimes say, oh, have you thought of this? Because they're sort of the folks who are across all the different sectors. So I think they add a lot of value that way. I do wonder if so it came here tonight just as a seeking insight, given that this trust at the last meeting recommended the additional allocation from UDAG.
Okay, I wish I had known that.
Yeah.
Going into this discussion, this is not our purview, but we are weighing in on it.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Colleen.
Holly?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna now just reiterate what Cindy said at the tail end. I think it is good for us to maybe have some recommendations, particularly around the housing piece, but I agree that as the trust, that's a separate fund, and our job is to oversee that particular fund. but I think because it's relevant to what we do, we can certainly provide our thoughts, but I don't want to see us try to be the ones managing the decision making. If that makes sense.
Yes.
I apologize, but for some reason I can't figure out how to put my hand up on this particular screen tonight.
All
I'm
right.
not sure. But I was just going to go to the sentence that you had there, Katie. Basically, what would this trust recommend we consider? So you're just asking for potential ideas? Is that the idea? There's absolutely no decision required there.
Right.
And then I guess I go with whatever everyone else says I'm new on the deal here.
Katie, when it says strictly housing / fuel includes electricity or does not include electricity?
It has in practice, so
Okay.
I've carried that forward a little bit. But
Okay.
I think making that more explicit, because I think that's my other concern with it is right now it's who knows to come talk to Katie and how is Katie interpreting this sort of unclear paragraph. And so that's why I'm very much hoping for these are the uses. And then given that clarity, doing the proactive outreach to partners so that Cindy can share with those coming through her door who might want to take advantage of this resource, and Loaves and Fishes can have it. The school counselors can know this is a resource. I think that I don't want it to be just those who happen to know to come see me. Like I don't think like I'd like to be very proactive so that it's those who need it most are flowing through.
That was going to be my question. How does anyone know in the first
Right.
place?
So far, the way that people have been referred to me is St. Vincent de Paul knows we're a resource. So we sort of refer to one another, which is great. And then National Grid actually told someone to reach out to us. So they have learned that we can be a resource for folks in Ayer, which
That's
is
my fault.
Oh,
That's great though.
yeah. And then Coin has been a referral partner. So, there are definitely folks who are tuned into this as a resource. I just want to make sure everyone is. All right.
Do you maybe for our next meeting, and I agree, like I don't want this trust to like take over anything, but if we're like helping get the funding, definitely like some suggestions, recommendations, whatever. But do you think maybe for our next meeting, you could outline ideally what you would like to see this fund before? And we could go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Something to react to. I love that.
All right. Then next up will be the Devon's Crest allocation update.
Oh, good. I'm glad Janet's on this call still. So CPC is moving for, so just to remind everyone and the public who's not here, that 2 pools of money were committed to Devon's Crest last fall, 400K from CPC and 170 from this fund. CPC has done a great job pulling together the grant agreement in order to actually give the money. So Devon's Crest hasn't actually received any of this money yet, which is why we're still talking about it. And so what I wanted to check on tonight was how does the trust feel about sort of glomming on to the work that the CPC has already done in pulling together all the legalese rather than us going through an entire process to do the same thing. So we're still that. Janet, maybe I can tag you in to talk about where it is at this point, just in case that feels helpful background.
Just a moment before Janet starts.
Sure.
I have to leave.
Okay.
I can give you 10 more minutes. That's it. So
All right. 10 minutes. We're on
Okay.
the clock.
I'm just gonna go out because I think you still have a quorum even without me.
We lose quorum actually when you leave because Janet's not technically. Oh, no. Now the
I know, we
Colleen's
still
here.
have it,
Sorry.
yeah.
No, we're good. You're right.
we're good.
Well, I'll just make it quick that the CPC agreement has been verified and updated and blessing from town council. So where it stands right now is seeing whether or not we can get the addendum that also enforces to make sure that we're kept up to date. I mean, CPC likes to have invoices of how the money is being spent. So it's just not given blanketly. We do like to have, like I say, check and a balance. And that's what we need. So with that, we want to make sure that the units that are going to be renovated are being renovated, and that the vouchers are going to be coming in, which I understand that they have started, but also too showing on how those 80% AMIs have been reduced to 60% AMI, which means that they've got to, validate that they do have individuals that are now moving into those 80% are actually now at 60% AMI. So that's pretty much the basics of that agreement. There's other things about the funding, who gets liable, who's not liable, and such that the town council has written in. And there's a lot of whereas and things like that. So that's it in a nutshell.
Do you know if town council, has the question been asked already if an addendum is possible? Or
Not yet. We've got a flurry of emails back and forth that are copying the town manager's office, but they've been in a flurry of catch up with July with town council, and so we're on the bottom of the list. So it's in the sphere of conversation, but it's I don't think yet on council's desk.
Was the
yeah, go ahead, Ken.
So you're raising this question as an addendum to the work of the CPC, and you're using the term rather than duplicating efforts. Why wouldn't you just have your own agreement similar, but not an addendum? Just trust to Devon's Crest, whatever the case might be. Can't be that much extra work, I don't believe.
Fair enough. Mirroring then, rather than an addendum, just something that mirrors what the CPC's already done.
Yeah, because I think we're
it's two different funds. It's come from two different sources and two different votes, and I don't see how you can have an addendum with putting trust money in the CPC funds.
I'm good. That totally makes sense, Ken, and I appreciate that. I think what I want to avoid is us having to go through the whole rigmarole that CPC already has. So if we can more or less copy and paste and sub in trust, that sounds good to me too.
I think we both had the same stipulations and for when the funds would be, released, and so I agree with Ken. If we could mirror it, just put in trust as opposed to CPC or CPA, and then Any other thoughts? Or if not, then we'll move on to the inclusionary zoning.
Great. All right. IZ, this has been my fun. I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with inclusionary zoning lately. So, refresher for everyone. Inclusionary zoning was first brought to the town. Ken can give me the year, some number of years ago, and nothing came online with it because it was requiring 20% of units be affordable. It was amended back in last October so that it was 10%. And since we've actually had a good handful of projects that are qualifying under inclusionary zoning that are coming online, what we're learning is that because inclusionary zoning, or our bylaw currently does not specify an AMI level, developers are defaulting to the 80% AMI level, which, because we're in the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, HUD zone, our median income is held against Cambridge's. And so 80% AMI is actually above Ayer market rate. So these capital A affordable units are being required, but then they're not actually any more affordable than the rest of the units. And so I've gotten the go ahead from the land use
That's a
team.
little off kilter what you just said.
Okay, go ahead. Call me out,
If a
Ken.
unit is for sale, it's got a fixed price under that is lower than the market. It may apply only to rental. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, fine. I am, yes, very much talking about rentals. So that's a good call out. Thank you, Ken. And so for the rentals, I am hoping to, and have gotten the go ahead from land use to,
I'm not sure who's, excuse me, I'm sorry to interfere. I have the
no,
zoning
Ken,
book
please.
open right in front of me, where it says affordability standards, each affordable unit created under 10(3) shall be sold and rented, occupied by a household with income 80% of the area meet. It's right there. I don't know why people say it's not there.
Interesting. It does call it 80%.
Well, I'm reading it. I mean, now there is a slight problem because I do have the printed page in front of me and I've requested a brand new printed stuff. So I'd actually have to go online and check it, but I would be careful to check it under section 10.33, basic requirements
10.33. All right. Thank
of
you.
the zoning. As it
I
says
will
there,
check it.
when I first heard that, I know we've always complied with the requirements of the state
Right.
requirements.
So it's not that we're not in compliance. It's that the default compliance or the
Well,
lowest threshold to meet it is the 80%, which just
Right.
isn't lowercase a affordable in Ayer. And so the reason this is in front of you all is because we were talking about whether or not this trust had an appetite for buying down units that were coming up through the inclusionary zoning. And there was consensus that paying large sums of money to buy down a single unit was not something that we wanted to do. And so this approach instead is attempting to change the zoning to require that, or incentivize that at least for units coming online. So just an FYI, based on our last conversation, that in the works for fall town meeting is some draft that will require or at least incentivize a lower AMI, which is very in line with what a lot of other Massachusetts communities are doing. Like Salem, you can't build anything that's more than 60% AMI if you're doing affordable. So Chelmsford, the rentals are held at 50% AMI. And so sort of looking at what's out there, not reinventing the wheel at all, but sort of taking best practices from other communities that are in the outskirts of a HUD zone that doesn't really reflect their income levels. So stay tuned on that one, mostly just a stay tuned.
All right.
Ken, you're going to be the first person I have look at the draft because you always have a keen point to make, and I appreciate it.
All right. The next step then, we're going to the trust balance.
Mm-hmm. All right. So here is more or less where we stand. I am still trying to get on the Main Street bank account, so I have not been able to update the interest. But what our assets are from CPC allocations versus what our commitments have been, including our current year of ARAP, we're sitting on $132,000 in case another opportunity presents itself or for future initiatives. So just to have that sort of in your realm of thought as we then sort of pose the question as to what might be future initiatives. So this is not to be answered tonight. It was more of I would love us to build in some time to do some visioning and long-term brainstorming. We're coming up on the master plan and the housing production plan, and I would love for the trust to sort of put a stake in the ground as to what our hopes are for 1, 3, 5, 10 years, so that we can build that into the goals and then make it happen.
All right. Okay, and then that will bring us to our last topic of the meeting cadence and the next dates.
Yes, which I don't have a slide for, so I'll stop sharing so we can look at ourselves.
All right. We stick with the same schedule, then August 26th would be the next date. Second day work for everybody as of now. Bob, you're muted.
Works for me.
Okay. Paulina, will you be back in school yet?
I don't think I start till the following week. My kids start back that day, but
Okay. So would 6 o'clock be okay still?
6 o'clock is fine. And actually, for the fall semester, I finish early on Wednesday, so we could keep it at 6 o'clock for the next few months, and I'll
Okay.
let you know if it becomes an issue later on. But I'm okay with sticking with 6 p.m.
All right. Bob and Ken, is that day okay for you guys?
Wednesday seems to work for me because most of my other commitments are on Tuesdays or Thursdays, actually.
All right.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays work for me, but that particular in August, I'm going to be out of the country in West Africa, actually.
Oh, how fun.
Well, how you think we have housing issues?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We could move it to how long will you be out of the country?
Until September 13th.
Okay.
So I suggest you meet without me.
Okay. All right. Let's keep it for the 26th for now. And Katie, if you don't mind sending out just an email.
Sure.
I think, yeah, because that way we could see if Cindy's available and Pat.
And Pete, our new planning board
Pete,
rep.
yes, and Pete. Yep. All right. All
And
right.
then maybe we plan on the housing forum sort of being our in lieu of meeting for September, and we plan
Yeah.
for October. Just get on more of a every other cadence or something, unless there's a need to do
Yeah.
it more
No,
frequently.
that sounds good. Yeah. Like that.
All right.
All right. Then if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Second it. All right, Colleen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bob, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.